Let's read the verses up to 10, and then we'll see what God had for us there. And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah has done, and with them how he had slain all the prophets with his sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, So let the God to me, and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them by the morrow about this time. And when he saw that, he arose and went for his life, and came to Sarraf, which belongs to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down at a juniper tree. And he requested for himself that he might die, and said, It is enough. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. And as he lay and slept under the juniper tree, behold, then an angel touched him, and said unto him, Arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was a cake baking on the coals, and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat and drink, and laid him down again, as he slept again. And the angel of the Lord came again the second time, and touched him, and said, Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee. And he arose and did eat and drink, and went the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights, and to Horeb, the mount of God, and came hither into a cave, and lodged there. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said unto him, What dost thou here, Elijah? And may the Lord bless his word for us. Let's pray one more time. Heavenly Father, we beg for your presence among us this evening, Lord, that you help us to understand the lesson from the life of Elijah, when appropriate to apply to our life, and also to use it not only ourselves, but how people around us. I pray, Lord, the blessing of our gathering. I pray, Lord, for people who couldn't be with us tonight. I pray, Lord, for the men who are in pain and suffering this evening. From all our churches, that you be with them, strengthen them, give them, Lord, the strength to go another mile with your help and guidance. I pray, Lord, for the families. I pray, Lord, for the youth. I pray, Lord, for the children. That you keep us all under your guidance. Thank you, in Jesus' name. Amen. This is one of the hardest messages to preach about Elijah. And really, I really thought hard whether I want to preach it or not. And even as of 11 a.m. this morning, I was still hesitant if I want to share that with you. Because basically, it's talk about a topic is not as much spiritual, but also physical. So far, we've seen a lot of the life of Elijah. We see how he appeared suddenly on the scene. We saw him as a courageous man, as a tough man who really stood alone in front of the king and told the king what's going to happen. We saw him really how we looked at him how throughout his life he was stepping always in the impossible. He really did things that nobody before him has done. Challenging a king, predicting that there will be no rain, that there will be rain. Then he had in his confrontation, we look at the voice of Elijah and how he really was successful, eliminating pretty much the priest of Baal from Israel. But then all of a sudden, we see a picture of Elijah we haven't seen before. Queen Ahab, who was really a man who relying so much on his wife to do his business. He wasn't a proper king. He couldn't do anything. And his wife was an evil woman, simple. She was Phoenician, a worshipper of Baal. She brought the worship of Baal into Israel and was trying hard to eliminate the worship of God. He went and told her what Elijah did on Mount Carmel, and now she's sending a messenger into Elijah saying, so let the gods do to me And more also, if I might not, if tomorrow by this time you'll be like one of them, I will kill you tomorrow. And all of a sudden we see another different picture of Elijah. The man who stood alone, facing the king, facing 850 worshipper of Baal, he ran for his life. And not only that, after he ran, he sat under a tree and basically prayed, I wish I died. Elijah was depressed. Elijah was depressed. Elijah, like we say in common English, had enough. Elijah decided, I don't want to go no more. This is it for me. And you don't understand, and this is really it. All the story of Elijah, as we see it here, has all the element of depression as we know it now as an illness. Now what we share tonight is, it's not my job to talk about depression, so don't take them and apply them to yourself. But I'll show you from God's word how he went into it, the mistake he made, and next week, God willing, I'll show you how God helped him to come out of it. It would have been better to see the problem and the solution in one day, but the message would be too long to share, and we don't like that. So you could see straight away Elijah basically collapsing. He's retreating. He wants to be alone. He wants to sleep. And he's praying to die. Now surely he didn't want to die. His cry, God kill me, or he prayed for death, is not real. Because Jezebel sent him a message, tomorrow by this time you'll be dead. If he wanted to die, all he had to do is stay where he is. And she'll do the job for him. So his cry for me to die was more a cry of, if you want to say, telling God that the way things are going for me, they don't suit me. This is more. I don't think it was after physical death. He didn't want that. He didn't expect that. But he was so fed up with his life. The turn of event. Obviously, after his victory on Mount Carmel, he was expecting something that didn't happen. After his experience on Mount Carmel, he was maybe expecting that those Israelites who that day fell on their face, captured all the priests of Baal and killed them, will finish the job, go into the castle, maybe take Jezebel out, finish her up, and the worship of the Lord will be restored, the evil queen will be out, but that didn't happen. And this is one of the sources of depression as you know it. First thing I want to tell you about depression, and that one, it's real. I'm sure we come over some preachers and say, it's not real, it's in the mind. No, it is real. It's so real, so much so that a lot of the men of God did have depression. Moses get to a stage where he told God, kill me. Jonah get to a stage where we told God, I wish I wasn't alive. Jeremiah as well. Paul himself, at some stage in 2 Corinthians 1:8, he used those words, for that we despaired of life itself. So it is real. And it was real for Elijah. The man was depressed. Now, that is chronic depression, that is temporary depression because of the circumstances we live in. But I doubt any man or woman go through life without a phase of depression of some kind. But I want to tell you another thing about depression. God being able to solve your depression problem is also real. You don't have to rely, you don't have to trap yourself into God, I have depression and that's it, there is nothing that can be done. We will see next week that he did do it. He did fix Elijah. Was not Elijah doing anything. It does expect some cooperation from the soul doing that, going through depression, because at the end, if you ever get involved in counseling these days, the catalyst of counseling. You tell people to do something, they totally ignore what you say, they do something else, and they continue their way. We live in a different age now. People don't like to be told what to do. This is what I refer to rebellious age. The I know better. A rebellious, I know better age. In 2 Corinthians 1, 8 and 9, Paul put how he said this, that he talked about his affliction and how he was much oppressed till the point of death. He used a very strong term. In verse 9 he said that we had the sentence of death in ourselves. We felt as if we were dying. But then he brings God into it in a very beautiful way. Verse 8 he said, for we would not, brethren, have you ignorant of our trouble which came to us in Asia, that we were pressed out of measure, above the strength. This is what depression is. Everything becomes too much. Everything becomes too much. So that we were pressed out of measure, above the strength, in so much that we despaired even of life. And then he continued, but we had the sentence of death in ourselves. And if we stopped there, he gave in, but he didn't, and said that we should not trust in ourselves, but in God, which rises demons. So this is what he's saying. Things became too hard to go on. I felt the sentence of death in me, but this was for me to learn that I should not trust in myself, but in God. And this is how Paul come to resolve that. So this is maybe lesson number 1. A Christian or a person, but more a Christian, who cannot rely on himself or herself more than God, are more prone to fall into depression and failures. Because we have a problem reading what God, often a Christian has a problem reading what God does in their life. And I think Elijah fell in that trap today. So first lesson about that, what caused Elijah, I'm not generalizing here, I don't know, as I said, but understanding depression and treating depression is beyond me. I'm not a doctor, I don't know. But looking at this story of Elijah, we can find a few elements. One of them, he had some irrational reasoning and expectation. He had some irrational reasoning and expectation. And this world we live in is full of not irrational expectation. One thing I can't get over, why people think, especially the Christian, that this word is so beautiful. They listen to Louis Armstrong and some wonderful word, and I saw blue sky and red roses too, and there are those. But this doesn't define the world we live in. This is now it is. If you're really expecting joyful living on a 24/7 basis, this is not in this word. Jesus Christ never described this word as such. John 16:33. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me you might have peace. In the world you should have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome you. When he wanted to summarize the life of the Christian, he said, be careful, I'm talking to you so that you'll have peace. In this world you'll have tribulation. So he didn't talk about the blue sky and red roses too. And talk about the friends. You see friends shaking hands. And are these there? Yes. That, of course. Because God knows our need, and every now and then, look, the world is not a garden. But you see sometimes how we walk in the forest. I did quite a bit of that in my life, and I still like to do it. If you walk in a forest, I love it. I'll tell you what I like about a forest. You see a beautiful tree. But then you see a dead trunk next to it. A forest is a good picture of life. You see a beautiful mighty tree, blossoming, green, flowers. But next to it, you see something dead. A big, huge tree falling. They'll give you the lessons right away. Nothing will last. And then you see dirt and dirt and dirt. And then in the middle of the dirt, you look on the side of the trail where you're walking through. You don't dare walk in everything. You see a beautiful
flowers in the middle of the dirt. So we do have little bushes in life. God knows. God gives us strength. He gives us families. He gives us His word. He gives us His presence. There are, but overall, this word is not a beautiful garden. And really, it's not a wise thing when people really go in life, everything they are fixated on, I want to create a beautiful life in a world that nothing in it is beautiful. Irrational expectation. You see people that are planning for the future, that really bugs me. And actually it doesn't bug me on a personal level, like people are afraid. But I say, are you really? Do you understand what's going on now? Everybody is set to want to create, he's going to be happy for the next 30, 40 years. How do they do it? They got money and money and more money. And they put money and more money. Is that really how we get happy? I look around, what do we see? What do we see? All I see, more divorces, more problems. And now, well, we'll finish Corona, we have something else coming now. The monkeypox. We didn't have enough Corona. We have to worry about something else now. And let me tell you, it's not going to finish. Elijah had a little bit of that in him. I remind you of that verse in 1 John 2. If you don't remember anything today, remember that. 1 John 2:16, he said, for all that is in the word. All that is. He doesn't say some of the word. He didn't say any word that is. He said all that is in the word is the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the word. And let me tell you something, if you plan for the future, please do, because it's wise to plan. But be careful. Judge what you're planning. Is it the lust of the flesh? Is it the lust of the eyes? Is it the pride of life? Or it's from God? Every time you make a decision, you make a plan, you should have. This is where Elijah really had a problem. Jezebel sent him a message, you'll be dead tomorrow. And all of a sudden he forgot everything. He told that he had some expectation that after that win on Carmel, life will change, but it didn't change. It didn't change. Charles Swindoll said his father told him a lesson. If a mule kick you, never forget where the source of the kick. And this is really very important. Because you see, if a mule kick you, you shouldn't get very, very upset and in despair, because this is what they are there for, mule kick. He forgot about all that. He forgot about his victory. God was already working, but I couldn't see him. Did you ever ask yourself, like, if Jezebel wanted to kill Elijah, why would she send him a messenger and not a soldier to put a sword in him and finish the job? Only that? Because God was working already. She didn't send a soldier to capture him or kill him, she sent him a note. He forgot that God is in control. He forgot that nothing happened without God. And he couldn't go to God to ask, to tell him, look what she treasured in me, protect me. He took matters in his own hand and ran for his life. And relying on himself, he made a problem for himself and people around us. So this is the first thing when you see that you might slip into some form of discouragement. The biggest source of discouragement is irrational expectation. I might look a bit gloomy to you, but some people get upset. So-and-so talked behind my back. So-and-so did something bad to me. If they are not Christian, why are you surprised? That's what they do. Sinners commit sin. That's it. It's what they do. Doesn't mean you take it like, nothing happened. I'm not saying that. We all get upset, but why do you get so fixated on it? And when sinners, evil people, do evil, why are you surprised? This is what they do. They gossip. They talk. They stab you in the back. They don't remain faithful. They turn their back on you. That's what they do. Shouldn't take you down somewhere you shouldn't be going. Second thing that Elijah did that he shouldn't have done, he stripped himself of his source of power, God and her friend. Notice in verse 2, I think. Is it 2? Can't think. What does he say? He left his friend there. And I have told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and without how he had slain all the prophet, then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah, saying, so let the gods do to me, and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them, by the moral of tomorrow. Look what he did. And when he saw that, he arose and went for his life. Start running. Didn't ask God. He didn't ask God. He didn't question God. He didn't come to God seeking help. And came to Beersheba. And you know why would God tell us that? Because Beersheba was outside the rule of Ahab and his wife. So he was thinking humanly. He was thinking humanly. He's basically saying, she ruled this area, I put myself outside the area. By doing that, it was like they say in English, you jump out of the pen into the fire. Because that area was under the rule of King Jehoshaphat, whose son is married to the daughter of Ahab. So he didn't go really far. He didn't roll it together. But look what he did there, which belonged to Judah, and left his servant there. So he decided to go on a journey by himself, and the only friend he had, his servant, he left him there. So God is not there, the friend is not there. And he's trying to solve that problem by himself. And over the years, you see people discourage what they do, they shut down themselves out of the house. They don't talk to God. They don't pray often. They don't come to church. You call them to visit, they don't want to do. And this is really a problem. You see, a lot of people say, don't understand depression. And I don't, honestly. One of the reasons I don't want to preach that message, because I've never had depression. I get depressed, but I never had depression. My wife did. When she was a teenager, she went through years of depression. Until she met me, since then she never seen depression. But she understands it. I do respect that. I do respect that really a person who didn't have depression shouldn't talk about depression. And I'm not trying to talk about it. Trying to tell you what mistake Elijah did. He kept himself. And you need to understand his servant is not a servant in all those old days. One would have a servant, the servant will be really a close friend. Like if you see the relationship between Abraham and Elijah of Damascus. This is the person, he confounded him, he trusted him with his life, he guarded him. So there were more. It's like you see in this house now you have a butler who knows everything about the family. So he went and left them there. And now some people will look at the situation and say, Elijah was an honorable man. He said, why should I take him with me lest Jezebel kill him with me too? But I don't think this way. If you feel that discouraged or depression is knocking on your door and you want us to accept that as you're going through it, first thing you accept it yourself and accept you need help. So keep your friend around. Keep the church around. You have the right to privacy. People that get discouraged, get depressed, and go sit by themselves in a corner and don't want to talk to anyone. It doesn't help. And shortly, you have a friend who doesn't talk too much. I'm not saying let everybody counsel you. This is dangerous. I'm not saying that. But let somebody come have a coffee with you. Sit down and don't talk anything. Don't say anything. Don't even talk about the problem. The friend who's sitting next to you, pouring your coffee, and just asking you about simple matters of life, he's pouring some encouragement in your life. This is our experience on both sides, taking and giving. Often all I think people need is just to take a bucket of encouragement and put it into their soul to help them see the real situation. A depressed person does not see the real situation behind it. He doesn't see the word correctly. And this is one of the biggest problems of depression. I'll get to it in a minute. They don't realize what they have around them. They don't see it. So do not isolate like Elijah did. Discouraged people are lonely people. Elijah should have kept his friend. Try to keep your friend around when you go through a phase. Elijah did the worst thing a man can do, or a woman can do, when they go through difficult time. Cut the friends out. Give them in. You need them. And this is what Satan, I see that all the time. Satan, you see, before Satan want to destroy you, he just gets you to go out, isolate. I see it in the older generation, I see it in the younger. I always worry about the younger generation when did you hear about so-and-so? No, he's not replying to phone, he's not responding, he's not coming to the meeting, he's not coming to the fellowship. We invite him for lunch, he doesn't come, we invite him for a coffee. I know something is bad. Satan is trying to put them in a corner by themselves, where they can't see right. You see, a depressed person is a lonely person. A depressed person cannot see around problem. Sure, we don't understand your pain, and nobody will. But you do need help, and you need us there. And if you ever had a chance to counsel a depressed person, please don't make that not nice statement. I know what you go through. You don't. We don't understand. Unless you have depression yourself, you don't understand what they're going through. And don't make that statement. I understand what they're going through. No, you don't. All you know that they are in pain, and you respect their pain, and you treat them as that they are in pain. The moment you're telling them, I understand what you're going through, and start giving them all this advice that doesn't make any sense, you're telling them that your pain is not real. And they reject it. Elijah also didn't count the cost of victory. Let me tell you a lesson, it's so true. And if you've been a while in the Christian life, it is so true. Satan always hits after a victory. When you have a victory in your Christian life, Satan is coming for you. And Elijah had just a victory on the mountaintop. And Satan is coming after him. You know when I worry about people after they make a decision to serve God? After they get baptized, after they make a decision to do discipleship, after they raise their hand to teach. I know, and I tell them, Satan is coming for you. He doesn't want you to do that. Somebody said, many people don't understand what is hard. You see, he's talking about those people. You see some people who do, what do they call it, hiking, climbing mountain. The dangerous one we're talking, not hiking like 100 meters like they do. People like go miles to the top of the mountain, you know. He said, do you know what the heartbeat is? As long as you have that top in front of your eyes, you feel like you're strong, you're pushing, and you get there and raise the flag and they take your photo. But people don't understand. The hardest piece is coming down. I'm exhausted now. I'm tired. There is no more candles, there is no people around me. But still, that 3 miles I walked up, I have to walk it all down. In wet socks, without food, and it's really hard. So when you see a victory in your life, be on the watch. Satan is coming for you. Spurgeon had a long, I know, you know by now I love the man. Other than his being like a very good preacher, a fantastic preacher, he was reading. Spurgeon experienced phases of depression where for 6 months he couldn't stand up pulpit to preach. And he documented it. In his book, He wrote a book, said like, I think Letters to My Disciple. He shared with them a little bit what will face him in the ministry. And he said in ministry that have a lot of victory, but after the victory there'll be a fall. I even documented a little bit what we call nowadays the Monday blues. Most of pastors, they like to take Monday off. Most people I know, it's becoming a custom. Because the pastor work like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, preparing for Sunday, whatever it is Sunday. The Sunday is the peak. Sunday is always a joyful day. You see the brethren, you preach, you sing, have time of fellowship, but then Monday come and you start hearing the negative. You hear of so-and-so didn't come to church because they have a family problem, so-and-so didn't come to church, for problem, that one don't like the message, this one get offended by the message too long, the message too short, preacher was too loud, and everything jumbled, and on Monday, almost 80% of the preachers have a form of depression. He talked about, look how he wrote it, an excess of joy or excitement must be paid for by subsequent depression. This is his experience. Might not be true for you or for me, but this is how it, just how we saw it. So excess of joy or excitement must be paid for by subsequent depression. While the trial lasts, the strength is equal to the emergency. But when it's over, natural weakness claims the right to show itself. So every victory in the Christian life, you will pay for it in depression. So watch for yourself after a victory. Satan, one thing about him, he's never your friend. He never likes you. And he doesn't like to see you victorious. He doesn't like to see you happy. So please count the cost. With that, close to it, do not underestimate exhaustion, physical exhaustion. And that's something I would like to talk about often. I believe in it. I believe in it. God knows our frame. God knows He created us. He knows our frame, He knows what we need. Let me tell you something. He set up the day. This is something that the world wanted to change over the years, which they couldn't change, the week. God created a 7 days week, 6 for work, 1 for rest. And we see that broken nowadays. People work 7 days and some would like to work 9 days if they could. God said we should rest a day. You need it. And I believe a lot of the depression going around, if you have depression, I apologize, I'm not counting you among that. As I don't like to say that. I believe a lot of the problem happening all around that men and women are not obeying God's command in resting. Having a day for a family, to sit down out, look at the flowers in your garden, have a coffee and just chill, kick back and rest and do nothing. Because you do need it. When God said, God created the heaven and the earth in 6 days and the 7 rested, we all know that illustrative. God does not rest, does not need to rest. He doesn't need it. He's telling us that we need to rest. So much so that if God rested, I should rest. So, Christian, you need to rest. For the past 3 years, Elijah was, you remember, as we saw in chapter 18, the king was looking for him to kill him. He was hunted. He was wanted. He was running for his life in fear all the time, from one cave to a brook. Not much food. I'm not sure if you're seeing the side of it. When he went, for instance, I said, when the magpie or the crow brought him food, and then he ran to Sarraf. And the lady said, we have a little bit of oil, a little bit of flour, and she made him a cake. And do you know what that means? For months he ate the same food. She didn't have a chicken and a pig. She didn't have a chicken and a lamb. There were no milk, nothing. Every day, bread, and that's it. This is what she had. So whatever food she had, he ate the same thing. So it wasn't a pleasurable life. He was stressed. living a hard life for 3 years. So by the time he came to, God was preparing him for Mount Carmel. And you need to rest. Christian, you need to rest. At least 1 day a week. Christian, you're not invincible. Don't plan. Take holidays. Take your family holidays. Break the routine. Rest. Have a week in the year or 2 weeks in a week where you do nothing. This is the first defense against depression and that. And if maybe you know, kids, same. Okay, I'll tell you a secret. I raised 3 boys. And I thank God for them. If God gives me a chance, I don't want to play symbols anymore. But each one of them gave me trouble. A different way. And a blessing at the same time. When they used to go out and eat, you ask them, my number one worry is their rest. I didn't care if they stay out. I trusted them. Even when they let me know I trust them, I choose to trust them. I was worried if somebody is really sleeping 3 hours a night for 3 nights, he's going to do something stupid. There's no point about it. And if you're a person who's not sleeping enough, you're not resting enough, I understand different people need different type of stress. Till that age, I'm 60, this is one thing I observe. I tell you, if one day I'm tired, I walk behind. I don't care about who's visiting or not, I go to bed. Sometimes I go to bed 9:30. It rarely happens. If my body tells me I need to rest, I rest. Because I know if I don't, the next day, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to argue with you all, we're going to fight. I'm not the same person. And you're not invincible, you need to rest. You need to sleep enough, you need to rest enough to get the brain to work. Because as we'll see next week, that the fight against depression and discouragement start here. You need to let the head rest. You're not a machine, you're a human. If you can take a holiday, take it. If you can take a day of rest, take it. Borrow money and go on holiday. I did. Because you need it. There is a Greek, and all the Greek sayings say, you will break the bow if you keep it always bent. If you do the bow and you keep it always bent, it will crack. You need to relax a little bit. And the last, and I'm done. Elijah fell into a trap we all fall into. Which is self-pity. Self-pity. Nobody knows what that thing is. When we talk about it, we all prone to it. I think there is a human who doesn't fall in self-pity sometime, but he get into it get to him. It messed up his life. And he couldn't get out of it. And we'll see next week when God starts treating him, the first thing is to get him to understand that you're living in self-pity. You need to snap out of it. Definition of self-pity, one definition. Pity for oneself, especially exaggerated or self-indulging pity. You have something in your life, a sorrow of a kind, a pain of a kind, and you dwell on it, you don't want to let go. I like what I think Vernon McGee said about self-pity. The one thing about self-pity, though, I'll tell you, it's a liar. We all have it. But let me introduce it to you that way. Self-pity is a liar. It lies to you. It tells you you're alone when you're not. It tells you you're a loser when you're not. It tells you that you're failing when you're not. It tells you that you're bankrupt when you have plenty. This is what self-pity is. Self-pity works this way. It creates for you an imaginary standard that nobody is expecting you to meet. And you'll see that in the life of Elijah. I'm not sure if you say it here, like in verse 4, but he himself went a day journey into the wilderness after he left his friend, and came and sat down under a juniper tree. They call it also broom tree. So this is a small tree, like it's beautiful. It's a shrub, a small tree. It's fit only for one person. And he required for himself that he might die. And said, it's enough now, O Lord, take away my love, for I am not better than my fathers. And that gives you the key to his self-pity. First, who expected you to be better than your fathers? No one. Second, why do you think we want you better than your fathers? You know what? Who told Elijah that? Elijah himself. Elijah looked at his life and saw that nobody ever raised a boy from the dead. I did. Nobody ever put his finger in the king's face and told him, there'll be no water for 3 years, and it happened. But I did. Nobody really had a one against 850 Baal worshippers, and he won. But I did it. And for a moment he started thinking, I am better than my fathers. I'm better than them. And this is one thing from that false expectation I talked to you before. When you see a Christian, or you see yourself having some success in life, some victory, don't think you're better than others. Do you know who's the happy Christian? The relaxed Christian? The Christian who learned how to rely on God. But you know what happens? Sometimes when we rely on God, God will start giving us success. Because we rely on Him. Listening to Him. Obeying Him. But then get into our head of success. I'm better than others. Leave God alone. I can do it in my own. I think this is where Elijah is now. It's like, I'm not better than my fathers. Who wants you to be? I didn't expect you to. Elijah was relying on God at the beginning, and he stopped being reliable on God. Don't create this imaginary standard. I don't know what standard he put. But I see a lot of people like that. They create a standard of a kind that God doesn't expect or didn't set. And they measure themselves to that standard. And they see that, I don't match. And they start going to that self-pity and discouragement. And this brings self-pity and consequently discouragement and depression. The other standard is what put a standard and hold people to it. This is hypocrisy. This is what in Boston. I put a standard there and start measuring people on it, but not myself, and that leads to a life of hypocrisy. The fact of the matter is, you know what God's expectation of you is? Nothing. God wants you to rely on Him. The mistake you and me will make, when God gives us some success, we think our flesh is better. Your flesh is always weak. After 10 years in the faith and success and victory, your flesh is still as weak as it was 10 years back. The only way you can move forward is to leave your flesh alone and rely on God. After 10 years in the faith, you don't start relying on yourself because you have success and victory. You remain relying on God. You realize that you are as weak now as you were 10 years ago. I know, like in the first we use that, he's a strong Christian. What does that mean? There's no such thing. We have strong Christian. He's a man of great, I don't know. There's no such thing. There's a man who relies on God. There's a man who relies on God. If you study carefully the life of Paul with God and his encounter with him, when he told him, like, my strength and your weakness will be complete, this is what he wants. God didn't take his weakness away. He didn't take his weakness away. He prayed to God. He asked him, I have a weakness, take it. I'm not going to. You need to rely on me. He's back. I love the music, but I don't have time to listen to music. And of course, like my generation is different than yours. Half the people we listen to, I don't know who they are. But he's back, like about 2-3 years back, sister, when she was still single, Leonie, used to pop up every now and then for a coffee. And one of the exercises we used to do, me and Yola, was that she tell us what she's listening to, what she read. And she introduced us to a song by Lauren Daigle, You Say. And I love that song. And honestly, it's one of the few things I still listen to today. I don't have it on my phone or whatever, but sometimes if the radio is playing it, I pay attention to it. I don't have time to, I love to. And I wanted to see how God and self-pity, she wrote that song. I figured that, I learned that today. I didn't know. So who wrote that song? I don't know. But according to Google, she's the songwriter. Because all the time I felt like if somebody write that song, they must have experienced depression. They must have experienced depression. And you could see how she's listening to two voices. Self-pity in one hand, and God in the other. And I read a few for you. She started this way, saying, I keep fighting. It's in a smaller font. I keep my verses big so I can see them. I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I am not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. This is self-pity. Self-pity is a lie. Always remember. If you don't remember anything today, remember. I am more than just the sum of every high and every low. Remind me once again just who I am because I need to know. But notice now in the next 4 verses or statement how self-pity and God are fighting on the singer's mind. You say I am loved when I can't find a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. It's not her, it's her self-pity. And you say I am helped when I am falling short. And when I don't belong, you say I am yours. And you see the battle? The weak mind, the stressed, the discouraged, self-pity kicks in. And worrying about self too much, isolating God, is telling her, I can't feel a thing, I am weak, I'm falling short, and I don't belong. But God, really, the reality of life, if you're a child of God, you are loved, you are strong, you are held, and you are His. And all at the end is going to come to whose son, which voice is you're going to listen to. Which voice you're going to. Any song, whether it's in real life, it's true or not. This is how it is. I don't know the girl, I don't know who she is, she's famous. But I went dig his life, like her life today. And I found this about her, which tells me why that song came about. The singer was only 15 when she was diagnosed with an illness called something, that big name, I'm not going to embarrass myself trying to say it, but it's an immune deficiency. Kept her home for 2 years. During this time, she said, David learned how to sing, thanks to her mom, who thought voice lesson would keep her from depression. So the mom could see that she's going to get depression. And I fell in love, it became my healing, said David, finding music during the time. The lesson is, doing things can keep you from depression. Because when you stand alone, you stand home, no hobbies, nothing. Watching TV, looking at the screen. And I'm in that type of job. I look at the screen 14 days a week, a day, minimum. It's not a good thing. I have to watch this at all. I have to really pay attention what I do when I go. But self-pity is prone these days. It's really everywhere. It's a lie. If you don't know who you are, you ask God. If you don't know how much you love, you ask God. If you want to know how much you're worth, ask the blood of Jesus Christ. If you want to know whether you're really alone and left, ask Him. He will say He'll be with you till the end of days. If you think like that you're going in a place where not even God can reach out to you, Ask him what he says in Psalm 23, even in the valley of shadow of death, he'll be with you. It's a matter of whose voice you're gonna listen to. Next week, God willing, we'll see like how God cared for him. He didn't blame him for feeling depressed. He provided for him. He let him have a nap. And then he whispered in his ear, son. And you see that Elijah, that he said, I want to die. He didn't die. He was taken, I believe, in purpose into heaven alive. He will be kept there for 1,000 years to come during the tribulation and die there. He submitted to God's plan for his life to live for another 1,000 years without death until he experienced it in the revelation of tribulation, where he prayed to God. Let's pray, and we'll catch up next week and we'll finish what we started.